Welcome to Eye on Election, where we're keeping a close eye on the Toronto mayoral by-election of 2023, with the hopes of identifying the ideal candidate or identifying the best solution options out there so that the people of Toronto can benefit when a new mayor is put in place. Today, we're going to be interviewing candidate Phillip D. Cruze. Phillip is a Canadian Armed Forces veteran. He's lived all over Canada and all over the world and has been trained to speak 52 languages. Phillip has a very interesting life story, and he's lived all over the world, which gives him a great deal of experience with respect to different policies, different cultures, and how these things affect societies around the world. Welcome, Phillip.
Hi, hi, Tony. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. Okay, Phillip, well, why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Philip D. Cruze, born in Calcutta, India. Came here in 1966, an immigrant with my family. My dad's Spanish, my mother's Irish, mixed family. I grew up all my life in Toronto. And when I got older, I joined the reserves, 709 Commune Regiment down at Fort York Armories for about 4 years. And then I went Reg Force, regular armed forces, for about 18 years and all over the world.
Great. And why do you want to be mayor of Toronto at this point in time?
Pardon me? Why
Yeah, I
do I want to
said,
be mayor? Just I love
why are
people.
you
I know
running
I
for
see
mayor right now?
why, because I want to help people. That's my only goal. I have no ulterior motives or no parties. My whole platform is about serving the people. People first, Exterior is nice, building housing and economics and promises and money and this and that, but I'm all about people. If you go to my platform, my first thing on platform is reduction of rent. It's a provincial thing. I know that. I still work with Ottawa, the government. I work for all four levels of government, so I got the inside about that.
I've been reading a little bit about your housing policy. And on one side of the policy, you said that you're going to promise a 20% reduction in rent to all renters. And on the other side, you said you will also hold landlords accountable for maintenance of premises and increase fines for those who keep dilapidated present premises, etc. I'm trying to find how are you going to manage this from a budget perspective, and what will you do about the potential backlash from homeowners who rent?
Oh, first of all, just to clarify, they're not promises. They're what I want as goals. I don't make promises that I can't keep. So I'm gonna go for the rent reduction. I've talked to Otto about it. It's a provincial, thing. The rent reduction, rent control fix that should have been done before the code was over. Um, it hasn't, and you see what's going on, like with the landlords and the increased rent. There's no policy to have them accountable for what they're doing, right? There's no rent control. Basically, they can do what they want. I've seen it around. Also, rent reduction, rent control, going after landlords, big neglect right there. Not one candidate, not putting them down, but not one candidate talks about landlords accountability. You know, infrastructure, meaning within things getting fixed, neglected. And my third thing is food. Food is my biggest thing. Food security, food industry, not industry, but food distribution and security for the last 25 years. I have it on my platform. I have a plan. I sent it to Ottawa last year, and they liked the idea. They said it's doable. They said it would cost an estimate up to 2.5 million to find a depot, a warehouse, convert it for a food distribution center. First thing you got to do is make a bylaw like other countries is cannot throw out good food. You cannot waste food. It has to be accountable and held. And you can set up a system. If you go on my platform, you can have it set up like the blue blocks. Just make a crude example where you have trucks going around, refrigerated, picking up quality food that's left over because they can't account for the quota they make every day, but just like grocery stores. Take it to the depot, have it sorted, have a quality check. So get that done. And then when you get distributed, you can go to food banks, you can go to soup kitchens, ODSP, low income families, it gets out there. And that way you reduce that $900 million wasted every year in Toronto on food and reduce that amount and get people fed. They want to put housing and put people in housing, but you want to fill housing with people, but first they got to fill people with food. So it's all
Exactly.
doable. There's nothing impossible about it.
Yeah.
It's done over in Europe.
Your policy sounds like it addresses two food issues: a question of waste and the question of hunger. So you're going to take all the waste food that we waste, the commercial food that's wasted, and redistribute it to the hungry. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. But people think that when they say wasted food, they think it's like leftover garbage that people don't want, like it's scraps. It's not. It's quality. I'll give you an example. Like most major grocery chains, like producers, like say No Frills, they send packages to the grocery store, the company. You get a little tear, a little mark. It's called presentation. That's the big thing. If it's not presentable to put on the shelf, they toss in the garbage.
One of the biggest challenges we have in society, especially in North America, is the waste of food. And you can't
Oh
have
yeah,
a place where you have a waste of food and you have hungry. There's definitely a disconnect there. So I'm glad that you're making an effort to
please.
correct that
Yeah,
disconnect.
these see.
I wanted to talk to you about your housing policy. I want to ensure that your statistics are correct, because if they are alarming. It states here that last year there were 1.3 million vacant houses,
Yep.
and thousands of empty apartments, while 300 million was spent on the shelter system. That too is
Yep.
another great disconnect. Why would we
That
need
was
to
in 10
spend
years.
$300 million on shelters if we have 1.3 million vacant homes? And are those stats accurate? And if so, how would you kind of correct that kind of
Those
alarming disparity?
and that's those are not my stats. That's from the news itself. I get that stats, those stats, right?
Right.
Well,
Well, this is what I'm
I
saying.
always think
I'm just asking you
these are
to tell the audience your source so that they
no,
know it's credible, because
no, it's
it
from the
is
city.
alarming.
It's from the city. It's from the news. It's all from the news. Nothing I made up. The 300
Right.
million is in within a 10-year system, 10-year period, right? It's all short term because people think shelters is a solution. We all know shelters are not the solution. Housing is the solution. It's done in Europe. I had a great interview on my pod with a couple from Lisbon. They did a city and they reduced their, I think it was care of Denmark or whatever. They reduced their shelters. They got rid of the shelters and they reduced their homelessness to 2%. They all put them in all housing, like the example, 1.3 million houses wasted.
Right.
So you take $300 million, buy some of those houses, convert them, not convert them, but just change them over to government. Empty apartments, like above, like in my building. 3 wards I live in last year, 52 apartments empty, sitting for 8 months. I talked to the landlords and the property managers, really good people, and they said, you know what? We'd rather have work with the government. We can fill them up. We get some money, right? There's apartments in where I live. There are people with mental issues. They have apartments. They're part of the government, and they're great.
Mhm.
They're great neighbors, you know.
What I have found in my engagement with the social services system is two things. One is there are too many bucket solutions. There are different individuals being affected by this homelessness for different reasons. Some people are functional people who are unable to get employment, and some people are people who cannot function because of, like you said, either mental illness or some other disability. But you can't have the solutions for those two sets of people are completely different, and the
Oh
system
yeah,
treats you like one lump sum and is guiding people
one lump
into
sum,
poverty.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm concerned with the inability of our leaders to see that the problem is not financial, the problem is systemic. It's a problem of fixing our social service delivery system, as opposed to throwing 200 million into a bad system. Right? What do you say to that as someone who has interacted with these systems and knows exactly what's going on?
The problem is they're not. Let's be honest. They don't give a damn about the homeless and what their views are and what their rights are. And well, look at the encampments. They took their dignity away, so to say. Right? Follow. It's like everybody needs has to be a case full. Like one person is one case. Not saying like a bag, but just a case meaning that that's their situation. That's their story. Let's follow through the story. Let's not just end it with medication in 3-term program and then you're done. You're gone. It ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
You got to follow through.
Where do you stand on the issue of sustainability and versus development? The issue of climate change and so on is a contentious issue that is not really being discussed by any of the leading candidates. How are you going to integrate climate change friendly policy into your leadership?
We did 2015 they all signed climate change, meet net zero by 2030. Ain't gonna be met. We all know that. They acted too slow on policy, getting the green in.
Urban development and economic growth are not aligned to sustainability. And I'm not hearing how the leaders of City of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, or anywhere are going to mesh these two ideas so that we have a workable society while we are maintaining a sustainable environment. No one is dealing with that issue.
They work with Therm. The cities work with Therm to bring this in. So that tells you right there, the city's not ready for green. They don't want green. Why are they bringing this company in? You know what's going to happen, Tony. It's going to fail. And then the city admitted at the conference that we have a contingency plan. If Therm fails, we're going to turn the area into greenery to grow food. I said, well, why don't you just do that now? It doesn't make sense, green.
Yes.
And you know what's going to happen with Therm when you have Therm, you know what's going to come after that? Think about it, Tony. There's nothing down there. There's nowhere to live. There's no grocery shopping down. There's no stores. You bring that company in, you're going to bring retail in. And that's in the plans. We all know that.
I'm still waiting and looking for the candidate who can present a green development platform. That is what I think we need moving forward. What I'll ask you to do, if you have any closing message for the audience, this is your time.
Oh, just look at my platform. I'm a regular guy. I'm not perfect like anybody else. Anybody comes across as being perfect, got all the answers, that's on me. I'll make mistakes like anybody else. It's a job. I can't say I'm going to be the mayor and be the perfect mayor because I know what the mayor entails exactly all to the detail, right? But you go to my platform. If I make a mistake, I'll own it. I've done it before in videos in the past, last year. If you have a question, like I took Rob Ford's stance about always answering people's calls and emails, and I've done this, I stick to it all the time. Because if you call your counselor or your ward or your mayor, if you can't get a hold of them, you should be in that job. You're there voted by the people. You're there by the people. You answer the people, right? You answer the people. Mayor has no excuse. You take that oath to serve the people, not just 9 to 5 and who you want and who you're going to prefer to. You can't pick people that accentuate your career. That's not the reason to run for mayor, right? I've lived in poverty. I lived on the streets. I struggle. So I can relate with people that have been there, still going through the process. You get somebody in the office like me or anybody else, that's the people that relate. You relate people, you've been through the experiences, and that's how you make the city better as a team, not just the counselors and vet counselors, but also the people of the city. You ask the people. So I say, people, I need you. If you help me, I'll help you. That's a promise. That's my one promise. For sure.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Phil. It's been enlightening, informative, and a lot of fun. And I hope you'll come back and join us again. And we're looking forward to have, like I said, a number of debates with the candidates moving forward. Thanks again. Thank you for taking the time to watch our presentation. For more information on the critical issues that affect us, please visit our website, advocateforchange.com. And don't forget to subscribe and share. Thanks again. Have a great day.